Okay, so my name is Timbit Iyasu. My pronouns are she and her, and I am with the Toronto South Local Immigration Partnership, TSLIP, and we've partnered today with ACCESS Employment to deliver this wonderful training on EDI, on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And today's workshop will be looking at equitable or ensuring equitable hiring practices. So from this point on, I will let Sarah and Sonia take the lead. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Timbit. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Chang, and I am joined here by my colleague, Sonia Reed, and we're both from ACCESS Employment, and is going through the first training workshop of our series today. And we're going to be talking about equitable hiring practices, as well as discussing that traditional need for Canadian experience. So we would like to start off with a land acknowledgement, and ACCESS and TSLIP would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe and Chippewa peoples, the Haudenosaunee and Huron-Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. So to kick things off, I'd like to share a little bit more about what we do as an organization. For those of you who don't know us, ACCESS is a non-for-profit organization that seeks to help anyone looking to find a job in Canada, with a particular focus on barriered individuals, newcomers, and refugees in order to help them find meaningful employment in Canada. We have 7 offices in the Greater Toronto Area. However, our client reach goes beyond Ontario as we deliver a lot of our programs and services virtually to job seekers located all across the globe. And we currently work with over 40,000 job seekers in our database, providing them with free employment training and connecting them to our network of 2,000 plus employers across all different sectors. We work with employers for hiring, fundraising, and sponsorship opportunities, and connecting them with our talented pool of highly educated and diverse job seekers. Here are some stats from our 2020 to 2021 fiscal year, and we are continuing to deliver strong results across all programs and services. And moving on, I'd like to hand the mic to Sonia.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you again, Team B. To welcome everyone, my name is Sonia Reed. I work on the corporate engagement team here at ACCESS Employment. I also do some work on the D&I initiatives. I sit with the EDI Council, and I'm also one of the founding members of the Black Action Coalition for Change here at ACCESS. So just to get things started, I want us to take a look at today's agenda and some of the things that we're going to be going through. So creating equitable recruitment processes is one of the main reasons why we're here, right? We want to understand how best we can do that and to ensure that we're catering to everybody that we serve. We're going to be defining DB, DIBE. We're also going to look at why now, as well as to look at equitable hiring practices, which includes the do's and the don'ts. So before we move to the next slide, a couple of the things that we want to really highlight is that the presentation should be about an hour. However, we are given an extra 30 minutes so that In case persons have questions, we would love to ensure that those questions are answered. If you do have questions that you don't want to ask openly, you can always send them privately to myself or Sarah. If you have questions that you want to share with the rest of the team that's here today, you can also put it in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat to make sure that we are catering to all the questions that are being posed. We want this session to be very interactive as possible, so please feel free to use those icons at the bottom of your screen. You can click on the reaction and raise your hand if you have a question. You can also unmute your microphone and pose those questions to us. Okay, so we're going to launch a poll question, and the question is about, is hiring candidates from diverse background and experiences important to your organization? 1, you can say definitely. 2, you can say I think so, but not sure. 3, no, not at all. And once that poll is completed, we'll continue the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you. So Pete, over to you.
I'll go ahead and launch the poll now. Folks should be able to see it in just a moment. Okay, so it should be up, and we'll have the poll open for 30 seconds. Okay. Okay, so I'll end the poll now. I did see that some folks weren't able to see the poll because it's on a browser. I'll take a look into that for our second poll as well. But here I am able to share the results.
All right, so wow. I think we have great company.
Exactly.
I think it's safe to say we definitely understand the assignment, because we have a resounding definitely. So thank you to everyone who participated in the poll. Of course, we want to make sure that we are paying attention to diversity when we're hiring. All right, next slide. Okay, so now let's take a deeper dive into defining DIBE. I like to say DB. I don't know if anybody else pronounced it the same way as an acronym, but diversity, what it stands for is diversity, inclusion, belonging, as well as equity. Just going to close the poll off my screen here. Okay, so for diversity, diversity is about considering the individual and the unique characteristics and elements of a person. For example, that person's race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, ability, etc. Inclusion considers the group. The intended goal of inclusion is to have all members within the group create cohesiveness to reach a desired objective, creating an atmosphere where people feel welcome, supported, respected, and of course, valued. Belonging is when each individual feels safe, supported, accepted, and included for being their own unique selves. Employees feel like they belong when their diverse thoughts, feelings, perspectives are valued in the organization. And last but not least, equity. Equity is treating individuals fairly and eliminating barriers to access so everyone can contribute. You know, all 4 of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity is to get the most out of your diverse workforce. So DB is the missing link to success in any diversity initiative. Now that we know what each terms mean, I urge you to start thinking about different ways you can improve on each component within your organization. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sonia. So it's important to ask why now, the question of why now. Why is diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging so important? Well, the answer to that is, we are hiring skilled and qualified humans. It's not about achieving a diversity quota. As the saying goes, diversity trumps ability. So that means when people with varied backgrounds come together to form a diverse team of solvers, they often outdo a team possessing superior problem-solving skills. So possessing that range of experience equals a range of perspectives. And so a diverse workplace leads to creative approaches and forward-thinking solutions that function best for a broader customer base. We understand through several research studies conducted by McKinsey and Gardner, to name a few, that organizations that have people from diverse backgrounds and experiences are managed inclusively, excel in productivity, performance, innovation, and creativity. We also recognize that due to systemic biases against groups of individuals, we want to ensure that we create fairness and equitable hiring practices so that all candidates can be successful in an organization. So let's dive right in. We're going to first look at a study done by a global research and resource hub called Hireimmigrant.ca. So for the study, the researchers sent thousands of randomly created resumes by email to job postings in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver between February and September 2010. The resumes were designed to represent typical immigrants that arrived recently under the Canadian point system from China and India, as well as non-immigrants with and without international sounding names. The researchers collected and analyzed this data on callback rates for each type of resume. And the results, not surprisingly, were number one, Canadian-born individuals with English-sounding names are much more likely to receive a callback compared to foreign-born individuals. Employers value experience obtained in Canada, as well as the fact that even a foreign-educated individual with the highly ranked foreign education, that didn't really help their callback rate. And last but not least, name discrimination was pretty substantial when they looked at and analyzed all this data. Even for resumes with no other foreign indicators, which basically means even if a resume has a foreign sounding name, but their work experience is all in Canada, they're still less likely to receive a callback compared to other resumes with the exact same experience, but with an English sounding name. So what's the reason behind all of this? Are these hiring managers being intentionally discriminatory? I would say for the most part, no. This is actually a result of their unconscious or implicit biases at play. And from the pre-module that I hope you would have had time to go over before the training today, we all have unconscious biases. As you would have learned from the pre-module, unconscious bias drives instinctive behavior. And it really allows people to make snap judgments without truly being aware of why we're thinking this way. So for those of you who didn't have time to go through the pre-module, I'm just going to play a short clip from the pre-module, from one of the pre-module slides. And for those of you who don't understand what unconscious bias is, this video will do a really good job explaining it. Oops.
In the following video, you will understand more about how unconscious bias plays out in our judgments on a daily basis.
Oh, you know what? I don't know why, but the video is not working. Why don't we do this? Why don't I turn it over to the audience? Who can tell me what unconscious bias means? Feel free to just unmute yourself.
So I'll jump in and go first.
Yeah.
I was born in Jamaica. I love Jamaican patties, and this is probably the simplest explanation. I would purchase a Jamaican patty here in Canada from a Jamaican-owned store because in my head, the patty will be better because it's made by Jamaican.
Yep, that's a really, really good example. You know, it stems from your own personal upbringing and experience, and it kind of drives how you perceive, you know, the world around you, right? So that's
and how we make decisions as well.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Yes. Would anyone else like to take a stab at it? And if you're feeling shy to unmute yourself today, feel free to drop your comments in the chat as well.
And if we're really, you know, if we want to take it from a different perspective in terms of what we're here for today, the topic of diversity and inclusion and belonging as well as equity, it's so easy for us to feel comfortable because of the known. So if I am going over 5 applications and I notice that somebody in the batch attended the University of New Hampshire, which is a university that I attended, I probably feel more inclined to have a conversation with that person because I feel that there is a connection, right? I automatically start to think that they will have the same skill sets or the same know-how as I do because they've gone through the same institution that I was a part of. And so this is what, you know, I wish we were able to play the video because it really goes in deep to talk about the little things that we're probably not always aware of, but how it impacts and how it affects the persons around us because of the decisions that we make.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and I think you really nail it on the head there, Sonia. It really is about, you know, being aware of our unconscious thoughts and biases, basically, and that is the first step to moving forward to a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive thought. So we're going to move on to the next slide here, and just you know, kind of relating the unconscious bias and the fact that how we all have unconscious biases, and you know, being and understanding that that is the first step to moving towards a more to promoting a more equitable hiring practice. So referring back to you know, the experiment conducted by Hireimmigrant, a further study has shown that many hiring managers suffer from statistical discrimination, which basically means a concern on communication skills. They also suffer from taste-based discrimination. Sorry, this thing is in my way. 1 second. Okay, I don't know why I can't move that. But it's basically a preference to, you know, work with individuals of same ethnicity or first language. So again, they're not intentional in their discrimination, as this is a result of their unconscious bias, but Simply put, their brain instinctively directs them to processes and environments that they're familiar with, that and they're comfortable with. So being aware, as I mentioned before, of our biases is the first step. And once we are aware, we can then to promote equity in our hiring practices as well as our interviewing practices. So we're going to dive into 5 areas to promote equity in our hiring practices and ways to reduce bias. So we're going to look at how we can rethink and rework our job descriptions. We're going to talk about how you can include an equity statement in your job descriptions. We're also going to be discussing how to pipeline for diverse talent, as well as 2 in the pool methodology and structured interviewing, which are ways that, or methods that you can incorporate into your hiring processes. So inclusive language is really about respect. It should leave everyone feeling accepted and seen. It's free from words, phrases, or tones that reflect prejudice, stereotypes, or discriminatory views of particular people or groups. It also doesn't deliberately exclude people from feeling seen or heard. So for example, examples of gender inclusive language, examples of using inclusive language in your job descriptions would be using gender inclusive language, using pronouns, using self-identification, etc. So when someone reads your job posting and sees a laundry list of qualifications and tasks, it only creates bigger barriers. This is especially true for marginalized groups. It often leads to overqualified candidates overshadowing marginalized individuals from moving forward in the job market. So your job description should really have the bare minimum of what you're looking for. An inclusive job description is written so that everyone would feel like they'd be included at your company and be welcome to apply, regardless of their gender, ethnic background, cultural beliefs, sexual orientation, age, or disability. You should also be looking at reworking your must-haves and nice-to-haves for a job. So just to give you an example, many new immigrants come with a wide variety of skills that are transferable across multiple industries. So you can always train someone, for example, on how to use a software, but you can't teach someone to have the right attitude and be willing to learn new things and step outside of their comfort zone. So really looking at an individual, or really focusing on the soft skills needed to perform this job, and that will trump technical skills. So really thinking, reframing your job description and reworking your must-haves and nice-to-haves based on what skills can or cannot be taught. And also consider language barriers when creating your job posting and description. Avoid jargon and slang. Consider translating your job posting to different languages if the position does not require a high English level proficiency. As well, you can also, if this job doesn't require a high level of English proficiency, maybe consider if you can offer language training within your company to kind of complement the on-the-job training for this particular individual. Okay, so we're just going to look at some examples of job descriptions that don't have, diversity and inclusion in mind. So this example provides you with an example of basically using jargon in a job description. So as you can see here, the description for the content marketing specialist, they mentioned in the job description that the ideal candidate is a digital native. For those of you, so for some of us who weren't born in Canada, they may not understand what a digital native is. So that's just an example of jargon, and I do recommend trying to use as less jargon in your job description as possible. Okay. And so this is an example of a
Sarah, you're cut out if you're still there.
Hopefully she's able to, oh, there we go.
Oh, she's back.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Studies have also shown that in general, males compared to females apply to roles 90 to 100% of the time, and females apply to roles 60 to 70% of the time. So with these stats in mind, ensure your job descriptions are gender balanced or coded properly, and it should contain more feminine coded words in order to make your job I can start off, words like adventurous, words like aggressive, ambitious, assertive. Any other ideas?
So Sarah, I think you got a little bit disconnected before you shared a couple of the words that you wanted to start with.
Okay.
So if you want to just go over the last few sentences a bit, because I think you're expecting persons to share their own, ideas of some of the words that they think should be eliminated from a job description. And that part got a little bit cut out just before you shared your words. So this is definitely an opportunity for everyone to participate. And I just saw something pop up in the chat. Remember, the chat option is there for you to share your own thoughts as well, or you can unmute your microphone.
For sure. And I apologize. I am experiencing unforeseen technical difficulties at home today. My internet connection has just not been the best. So, if you can't hear me or if I'm cutting out, please just unmute yourself and let me know. Okay, so I can repeat some of the content that you'd missed. But basically, going back to the gender coding or making a job description more gender balanced, the main takeaway is just ensuring that you're containing more feminine coded words in order to make your job more inclusive, just because compared to male applicants, females usually apply to roles 60 to 70% of the time. So to be more inclusive to people who identify as women would really, open up and expand your talent pool of candidates. So I gave a couple of examples of masculine coded words, such as adventurous, aggressive, ambitious, assertive. Some feminine coded words could be affectionate, cheerful, collaborative, communal, compassionate, connecting, considerate, cooperative or cooperation, dependable. And I see that one of our participants, thank you, Georgetta, and I apologize if I'm completely butchering your name, for dropping in a gender decoder. There's multiple gender decoders that you can search for on Google. But yeah, what you can usually do is you can cut and paste a job description that your company has into a gender decoder, and it will tell you whether or not your job ad contains more feminine coded words or masculine coded words. And like I said, you can find, additional gender decoder tools online just through a simple web search on Google. Okay. All right, so we talked about, being aware of not rooting out marginalized job seekers in a job ad. So, a lot of the marginalized job seekers, newcomers, immigrants, refugees, as an example, they may not have access to a vehicle, or they don't have a valid driver's license. So don't include this in your job unless it's an absolute requirement. So for example, if this is an Uber driver job ad, obviously, it would be a must have, but if it's an office job or if it's a job that doesn't require the individual to travel, I would just take it out in order to not root out marginalized job seekers in the community.
And just to add to that, Sarah, I think, employers are in fact becoming more creative with their job descriptions. I have seen job descriptions where employers are indicating that there's local transit or local transportation available, but there might be delays. Just so, persons might see that there's a need to have access to a reliable vehicle. Here is why. Adding that why is so important because, earlier on you talked about the percentages of application in terms of male to female. And a lot of times, for women, they struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. They often don't feel as though they belong or they're capable of doing the job. While a male will look at it and see the 3 first lines and say, yep, I'm applying. I think I can completely do this job. And so these are some of the things why we really want to be very careful when we're putting those job descriptions out there. I often see recruiters struggling with filling roles. Here are some of the reasons why. Because persons look at the job description and they automatically eliminate themselves because they don't feel as though A, they may not understand because of the jargon, or B, they may not have a car because of their time in Canada. And these are some of the things that prevents them from pursuing the application, even though they're very well qualified for those roles. So it's just something to bear in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia.
No worries. All right, so I think the next slide is mine.
Yep.
Okay, so let's take a look at our equity statement. Having an equity statement is really important in terms of bringing persons' awareness to the type of organization that you are, as well as to boost their interest in joining your organization. So an equity statement could look like we recognize that people come with a wealth of experience and talent beyond just the technical requirements of the job. Now, we can teach somebody how to turn a computer on, but we know we can't teach them to have a personality, right? Imagine saying to somebody, you need to smile all the time that somebody walks through the door. And this person is naturally not a smiley person. So every time that they have to put that smile on, oh my God, the face is about to rip because it's not something that they're accustomed to. A lot of people are great behind the scenes, and some persons are really, extrovert. They like to chat, they like to engage. So having that equity statement is really important because it's another way of showing who you are as an organization and having persons want to be a part of it, okay? So if you meet the minimum requirements and your experience is close to what you see listed here, please consider applying. Diversity of experience and skills combined with passion is a key to innovation and excellence. Therefore, We encourage people from all backgrounds to apply to our positions. Let us know if you require accommodation during the interview process. So I really want to open up the floor and have, persons on here participate. If you were to see an equity statement like this, would this boost your interest to apply to an organization? Even though, you might not have a reliable motor car. You might not have the 10 to 15 years experience that the role is asking for. You might have 7, which is halfway there. Would this encourage you to apply even though you don't have all the required skills? And to put the cherry on top, if the employer had differentiate between the nice to have and the must haves, would this be something that encourage you to apply to a role? Definitely. Thank you, Georgita. Lydia, thank you. Anybody else want to chime in? How is our chat looking, Sarah?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Yep. So we've had responses from Varney, Larissa, and Georgetta. Larissa, yep, that's a really good point. More can be discussed during an interview. Yep.
Absolutely. Love it. So many employers are also adding the question, did our equity statement encourage you to apply to their online job applications to gauge effectiveness of their equity statement, as well as to help them identify gaps and areas for improvement? So the general statement is really to make it short and sweet and to the point, and there's lots of resources online. So this is just a result of a survey that was done with our racialized alumni. And the question reads, did our equity statement encourage you to apply? And so we kind of touched on that earlier on in terms of whether or not the statement would encourage us as individuals here today to apply to a role, considering how well we fit into the description that the employer is looking for. So clients added the question, and of course, this was done in August of 2020. Since then, over 51% of all applicants have responded yes to this question, and another 20% have responded somewhat to this question. So by asking this, we can evaluate and quantify the value that adding a statement like this creates. So from this survey, as I said earlier on, was done with a couple of our alumni, and 75% agreed that it is important to them that organization promote a culture of inclusion, and organization is focused on creating an environment where people from diverse backgrounds can contribute meaningfully and develop professionally. And I can use a very good example of a conversation I had a couple weeks ago with somebody who joined our team, who joined our organization. And one of the things that they mentioned was that they were very happy to see how inclusive our organization was. And that was one of the main reasons why they applied. And if we want to go a little bit deeper into the conversation, of course, some of the things that, thank you, I love this. This just pops into the chat. So I'm flipping screens, and the person says, I believe that having this equity statement at the top of a job posting may encourage more applicants versus placing it at the bottom. Absolutely, I agree. Sometimes I think for most part, we're seeing them at the bottom right now, where they will talk about accommodation and they'll talk about inclusivity, but yeah, having it at the top is definitely a great suggestion. It's just like your resumes. When you think about your resumes, you want to have the most important thing about yourself at the top. You know, sometimes persons spend a lot of emphasis on the name being in, I want to say font 22. Well, great. It's nice to know your name, but I also want to see all the great things about you right at the top, because that also determines whether or not the recruiter continues to look at your resume, right? So when on the flip side of it, from a job seeker perspective, seeing that equity statement at the top of the posting, it's definitely also going to encourage them to read more about the company. So thank you. Like you mentioned, women may get discouraged and skip it without even finish reading the posting. So true. even for us, sometimes as professionals, being in the field, we also look at things and be like, yeah, this is not for me. I'm not even going to finish this. It's not worth the next 5 minutes of my time because I don't think that it fits into my experience or my understanding of what they're looking for. So having that right at the top, I think it's key, and it will in fact encourage more people to apply. All right, Sarah, next slide.
Thank you, Sonia. Yeah.
No problem. Okay, so we sort of touched on this earlier on, but when we talk about, you know, having a really a diverse job description that's going to encourage people to be a part of your organization or to explore other opportunities within your organization, your job description needs to speak to your diversity practice within your team. Talk about what you do. Talk about how people can fit in, even though they might not have that 15 years of experience. Maybe there's professional development within your organization. Talk about how persons will benefit from joining your team. One of the things that is such a kicker for me is when I see a job description, and I do a lot of professional development work here with some of the programs at ACCESS, and you know, I will sit with a client going through a job description, and the job description is like 3 pages. And then there is nothing that speaks about their equity statement. There's nothing that speaks about the salary, but you're asking for so much. The person needs to have all of these requirements. And where is your inclusion? How is it that this person joining your team is also going to support them? Because it's a win-win, right? Separating assets and skills, you know, more importantly, the nice to haves and the must haves, it's also very key. Because if the requirement is for me to have a master's, because it is a need for the role, then great, that's a must have. But then maybe if I have a BA, that would be a nice to have. And that will also encourage applicants to want to apply to this role. Consider gender neutral language. And Sarah, you did a really good coverage of that slide when it talks about, you know, reporting to the chairman. Reporting to the chair would have been nice. I mean, a chairman, a chairwoman, just reporting to the chair. Let the surprise be there when that person show up for the interview, right? Because what that's when we say reporting to the chairman, without us knowing, it is eliminating potential applicants, right? So it might look very simple or, you know, very harmless, but it could be harmful, because I think one of the beauty about culture is that we don't always understand the norms or the unspoken rules, the unwritten rules of different cultures. So what might be completely, I see reporting to the chairman, yep, I'm applying for Sarah, for Team Beat, for somebody else, reporting to the chairman is like, oh, nope. I don't think, I don't, even though they have all the skills, even though they have all the other requirements, that can be a complete ditcher. So definitely think about that when we're looking into our job descriptions. All right, so we're taking job descriptions. Some of the do consider transferable skills and equivalent experiences. I can go on and on and on and on and on about transferable skills. I think it's one of the things that employers miss out so much a lot on. Consider somebody who has been on mat leave for a year or 2 years. I don't know what mat leave is anymore. It's been forever. Don't try to guess my age, but I'm just thinking mat leave is probably a year or 2 years. I don't know. That person has been at home. Now, even though they're home, they might have taken on additional responsibilities, which of course has created new skills. Now, a lot of times employers will say, you know what, you've been out for 2 years. Yeah, you're not really as sharp. Or maybe the person wants to change roles. So for 5 years or 10 years, they were a professor. I remember trying to switch from a professor role and moving into corporate. And it was like, oh yeah, but you know, you did this all along. What are you thinking? Why do you want to change? There could be a lot of reasons why I want to change. But let's focus on the transferable skills that I'm coming with and how those skills are going to benefit the role that you're looking to fill. So never skip the opportunity of exploring the transferable skills that an individual comes with, because you'll be surprised that it could also benefit other ways within the organization, other teams, other projects that a company is running. Do have a diversity statement. We talk about it. It is super important. It's one of the best ways to gauge applicants, or as well as boosting their interest in applying to your company. Do take out the jargon. It's not needed, right? Not everybody, Canada is probably one of the most diverse countries ever. So everybody has a different way of doing things. And if you weren't born here, or if you haven't lived here for a long time, there are things that somebody else that's coming from Jamaica. I remember many years ago when I came here, I think my first job in Canada was in training. So I did training, which is why I talk with my hands and my eyes get super bright when I speak. And so I was having a class, and I mentioned, I said to a student, can I just borrow your rubber? And the whole class started laughing, and they said, Miss, a rubber? Okay, a rubber to me is a rubber. In Jamaica, if you say rubber, it's a rubber, it's a rubber. But here it's an eraser. And so the class had a field day because they were thinking their understanding of a rubber was completely different from my understanding of a rubber. So here is why and the other thing was data and data, right? So where jargons are not necessary, take them out. Have an inclusive language. Education is really a privilege for a lot of people. I don't think we really look into it that much, but it is really a privilege for a lot of people. And of course, do application instruction. So make sure the information is there, it's clear, it's easy to follow. That's also going to encourage persons to apply. All right, don't write a description based on the ideal candidate. So a good example is the coordinator that I had previously left. And so I am now looking for the same coordinator or elements of how that coordinator was to fill the role that I'm looking to fill. This is easily one of the biggest ways of eliminating potential great candidates, right? Don't write a job description based on the person that you had before. Of course, there are elements of that person or skill sets that you love to see continue within your team, but you also don't want to eliminate potential candidates. Don't add advanced degree as a desired requirement. Now, a lot of people will argue on that, and it's always up for discussion, but it's something that we have to be very mindful of, all right? Don't use inflated job titles or descriptions. Don't use gender-specific terms / pronouns, right? We want to be inclusive. Don't use terms like rock star, world class, or outgoing. And don't use jargon only internal applicants are familiar with. And this one is, I see it so, it's very common where somebody will say, using JW or using PC or using, JC. What's PC? What's JC? What's JW? If the person doesn't have an inside connection that they can say, you know what, Sarah, what does JW means at ACCES? What does it stand for? That's going to potentially eliminate somebody from applying. So at this point, I see that there's stuff coming into the chat. Always appreciate and welcome discussions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So if there's any questions, we do ask that you unmute your microphone or use the icon at the bottom. There's a really cool reaction button at the bottom of your screen. And it allows you to raise your hand. It allows you to give a thumbs up. It allows you to do a couple of things. So if you do have a question right now, please go ahead and unmute your microphone or keep putting the information in the chat.
I would just like to jump in and say, Lydia made a really good point in the chat. She said that, from some of the data that she's seen in the market, when, the applicant pool is already diverse, but that diversity starts to go down as they go through the hiring process. So So I thought that was a really good point to bring up. Thank you, for commenting on that, Lydia. And this is why, incorporating these equitable hiring methods, it really helps ensure that we're capturing diverse talents from beginning to end. So not just, capturing diverse talent at the beginning, but hiring process. So this will really help us reframe our way of hiring.
Okay, great. So I think we're at that exercise, Sarah. Am I correct? Perfect.
Sure. Yes.
All right. So now we're gonna, let's just look at this activity. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Do we want to put it in the chat?
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. I can also do it. I'm not following the slide on my end. So if I'm all over the place, Sarah, just bring me back to base.
All good.
All right. And the chats.
Hold on.
Sammy, let me just.
Can you do it? Sorry, Sonia.
Oh yeah, I can. I certainly can. No problem.
For some reason, my computer is being so weird today.
It's okay. Technology has a way of showing up itself when it's not needed.
I know. Not always the way.
I know. Okay, so let's see. Making sure it's, our chat limits the amount of words that we can have in there.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
I can do 2 parts.
Sure. Yeah.
I can do half and then add the next half. So let me do that. Just give me one.
So while Sonia does that, basically what we're going to be doing is just a very short group activity. Sonia will drop a sample job description into the chat. And it would be great if the group, as a group, rewrite the job description in a more inclusive language. We would also love for you to identify, maybe 1 to 3 specific strategies that could be implemented when recruiting and hiring for this particular position to ensure that the process is as inclusive as possible. So while Sonia is doing that, what I would really like to see is just everyone working together in a group. I'm going to open up breakout rooms, and these breakout rooms, I will just randomly assign you into individual breakout rooms. And you and your small groups, please, try your best within a 10-minute time frame to rewrite the job description in a more inclusive language based on what you have learned today. All right. So, Sonia, you've done the first part, right?
Yes, I'm about to put it might be 3 parts, but just hang tight.
No worries.
You're coming.
While you do that, I'm going to open up breakout rooms here. How many people do we have here? Okay, so we have about 13. Okay. Thank you, Varney, for joining. Yep, if you have to go, feel free. We will send you the recording afterwards.
Sorry, guys, it's coming in a little bit choppy, but you'll get the idea. And we're here for questions. Sarah, I will move around throughout the breakout rooms too, just in case anybody has any questions.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. So once I open up all the rooms, the system's going to prompt you to join the breakout room. So just click join, and we'll give everyone maybe 7 to 8 minutes. Try to do the best that you can. There's no right and wrong answers here. And then we'll all come back into the main session after about 8 minutes to discuss as a group.
Sarah, I wonder if you're the queen of Zoom. I'm looking to see if there's an attachment option.
To the chat.
Like for future events, it would be nice to be able to attach it. We can explore it more with, I know Zoom is always coming up with new ways of doing things.
I'm just looking in the chat box here. I don't see that option, no.
So maybe what we can do is add the activity to the invite, or maybe Tinky can support us on that. If she sends out the invitation, we can add the activities so it's pre-filled, like it's inserted before the actual event. Just something to take away. You know, my brain is not the sharpest tool.
No, I think that's a really good point. For future trainings, we'll definitely maybe send it to all participants prior to the training, right? So they can have it in front of them.
And that way it's good, because right now it's not all together. So it's a little bit difficult for persons to go through the requirements, but we'll take it off here.
Yeah. And they can still see the chat, right? When they're in their breakout rooms. Okay. That's good.
That was one of the questions I asked the room that I was in not too long ago.
Okay. I'm going to move Steph into room 2 because there's no one in there with him.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
It was Larissa that was supposed to be there, but
oh, but she left?
Yeah, she left.
Okay. Here we go. So yeah, I'll give them maybe until 12:10, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm here again if you need anything.
Yeah, thanks, Timby.
Sarah, I'm here, but I'm just going to respond quickly to something for HR. I'm going to send them something. Just give me 1 minute, but I'm here.
No,
I'm
no
serious.
worries.
You say me and I'll appear. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Sonia. All right, so welcome back, everyone. Just waiting for a couple more folks to, leave the breakout room to come back to the main session. But I hope that you had a fruitful conversation within your groups to discuss how to rework the sample job description. So we'll give everyone a couple more seconds to come back. All right, wonderful. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had, a wonderful discussion within your group. So I would love to have a volunteer just kind of represent their group and unmute their mics to share some of the things that they've done to rewrite the job description here. And feel free to just unmute yourself.
Georgetta for group 1. I guess I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Georgetta.
I think we have Kristen and Katrina in my room. And what we noticed is that this ad is very heavily masculine coded. It's actually even spelled out that they are looking for a traditional all-American boy. It screams of a culture where I guess you prioritize work and nothing else. And then in the requirements of the role, it asked for you being available to work weekends, mornings, evenings, pretty much anytime I guess the company wants to. We were wondering what they are offering because we didn't see the end of it. But I think from a women's perspective, and likely even some men would not necessarily apply for this position just because of the very heavy language, asking for ability to lead and command a room, very, very masculine. And also not clear what this analyst will actually do. So the job description, your responsibilities are not clear. And then they are asking for a degree in a field in a related field, but it's not clear what field this is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are all very, very valid points. And you're right, this job description is extremely masculine coded. You know, the main giveaway was the term all-American boy. But in addition to that, you know, there's a lot of masculine coded words dispersed throughout the job description. You're right on the fact that, you know, it's not very, that the job itself, like the role itself isn't being made extremely clear in the job description. So, you know, all these little things would kind of narrow your talent pool or narrow your candidate pool, and not be as inclusive as possible. And another thing that I wanted to note is that there wasn't an equity statement in the job description. And, you know, the what we can offer you section, the gym membership, opportunities for internal professional development and growth, and networking opportunities. Those are now for companies nowadays, those are very bare bones benefits and perks that a company can offer. So, you know, especially if you're requiring this individual to work outside of the standard 9-to-5 schedule, I think this company should focus as well on things like employee wellness, mental health support, you know, maybe offering unlimited personal time off, things like that, as well as a flex work schedule. So yeah, so these are all really good points. For the sake of time, we're getting pretty close to 12:30, and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I would like to move on to the next sections. We only have a couple of slides left, so thank you so much to everyone for bearing with us till the end. But thank you for sharing all your group learnings, and yeah, I hope that that the group work and the discussion was fruitful for you. All right, so I'm going to dive right into other solutions for equitable hiring. So pipelining for diversity. How does an organization actually do that? So, well, there are multiple ways. You can engage community agencies like ACCESS Employment and TSLIP to create diverse hiring pipelines. You know, we work with a lot of job seekers and clients who are or who belong in marginalized communities and groups. So, you know, tap into our resources, tap into our pool by, you know, connecting with us and partnering with us. Establishing partnerships with universities and colleges as well would be another good option to expand access to newcomer and racialized talent. And you can attract a wider talent pool by joining different DEI focused events and conferences to establish that organizational brand within the space. And you can also maximize your digital channels, for example, posting your jobs or events, not just on LinkedIn, but on platforms catered to a specific group. You can have content translated if trying to include internationally trained workers. You know, and students nowadays are also using TikTok or Instagram to find jobs. So, you know, just being aware of other platforms outside of the traditional job boards and posting your jobs there to kind of maximize your digital channel that way. And having a referral system set up within your company would be great as well. You know, have hiring managers and your talent team attend networking events held by community agencies such as ACCESS Employment. You know, we offer a speed mentoring program that connects industry professionals from an organization. We kind of set them as mentors for the event, and we connect mentors to mentees who are basically the job seekers that or the diverse job seekers that we serve within the organization. So really connecting them having them share industry knowledge, job search tips and advice, as well as any relevant information that would help the job seekers integrate into the Canadian labor market more successfully. So, attending these networking events held by community agencies, it would really allow you to directly refer diverse talent into your networks. So in our survey conducted of our alumni network, 87% of all respondents agreed that having a referral system increases your chance of getting an interview. So it's a really, really good channel to consider if you're trying to tap into that diverse talent pool. One methodology I'd like to highlight is the 2 in the pool methodology. So this study comes from the Harvard Business Review, and it basically shows the relationship between finalist pools and actual hiring decisions. So as you can see from this image, that the results from these studies were pretty much what we had predicted. When there were 2 minorities or women in the pool of finalists, the status quo changed and shifted, resulting in a woman or minority becoming the favored candidates. The results also showed the survey results also showed that when there were 2 female finalists, women had a significantly higher chance of being hired. The odds of hiring a woman were about 80 times greater if there were at least 2 women in the finalist pool. And a couple of other things to note here is that there was the effect held no matter the size of the pool. So if there were 6 finalists, 8 finalists, 10 finalists, 20 finalists, those stats remain to be the same. And so one thing to keep in mind is that in order to implement this method efficiently, you would have to first change your sourcing or screening tools to help reduce bias in the first place. So going back to, reworking your job description, re-looking at the job requirements of a specific role, and then basically reframing the way that you are sourcing candidates. Another methodology that I'd like to highlight is structured interviewing. So structured interviewing, basically means you're using the same interviewing methods to assess candidates applying for the same job. So, you're using a standard rubric of questions. You're using basically just a standard format for every single job. This removes the possibility for creative freedom, and it allows little wiggle room for bias to seep in. Most importantly, structured interviews are better at predicting job performance than unstructured interviews. So we first start off with a resume review, being aware of areas of bias, for example, the name, location, in-group bias regarding education. So basically what that means is, being aware of the tendency for hiring managers to give preferential treatment to an individual who maybe went to the same school as that, as the hiring manager, had the same amount of, sales experience as the hiring manager, maybe it came from the same country, had the same country of origin as the hiring manager, etc. So being aware of possible biases that could affect the review of the resume. A lot of companies nowadays consider using AI tools to remove names in order to reduce that bias. So this is something that you can also explore. And and another important thing to remember is the more diverse your talent team and hiring team is, the more diverse set of people you will be interviewing in the hiring process. So, looking into the two in the pool methodology, the same idea also applies to your hiring team. So try to diversify your hiring team as possible. And going back to, looking at the must-haves and nice-to-haves, really shifting that focus onto transferable skills, things like volunteering experience, life experience, that could be potential value adds for the role itself versus looking for that quote unquote ideal candidate. And in your interviewing process, it would be really good to incorporate simulations and situational exercises. There are better ways to determine a candidate's skills and potential job performance. So incorporating more simulations and situational exercises in an interview, it would allow for less bias in the interview process. So you can explore like a pairing exercise. You could ask the candidate to do a presentation, maybe have the candidate solve a case study, or read and analyze a case study. If it's a technical role, you can provide them with a technical test or some sort of project building experiment. And in the structured interviewing framework, you can use scorecards, so standard rubrics, where all applicants are asked the same predefined questions and scored with a predetermined rubric. So asking candidates similar questions based on competencies, values, and skills-based questions really ensures that the process is inclusive and consistent. Answers should also be evaluated on a predetermined scale. A couple of things to note about this step are, ensuring the scorecard recognizes and values international education and experience, and really eliminating that focus on requiring Canadian experience. Ensure that the focus is on competencies, and then again, looking for transferable skills as well as value adds. So just to kind of summarize what I've just talked about with regards to structured interviewing, the purpose of structured interviewing is really to help you find candidates who are culture adds versus being the right culture fit. Why is it better to hire for a culture add? So culture should be ever evolving. It actually is ever evolving. And instead of stagnating culture, it's really important to bring in fresh perspectives and ideas and make your organizational brand appealing to a wider talent pool. So, structured interviewing would really ensure that you are achieving that particular goal. All right. Okay, so we are short on time. What I'm going to do is move into pretty much the last section of our presentation today. We talked a lot about the benefits of diversity hiring. Now let's hear from our employers who have made diverse hires and the benefits they've experienced in hiring diverse talents. So back in April 2020, ACCES hosted a panel event that focused on the business benefits of hiring refugees, asking them about strategies on how to successfully integrate them into the workforce. So the panel was composed of senior leaders from global and national brands like IKEA and McCain Foods, and it aimed to increase awareness surrounding biases of hiring refugees, whose main barrier is having a low English level. The virtual webinar was recorded, and if you'd like to watch the recording on your own time, the link will be included in the post-training summary sheet that I will ask Timbeat to share after the event today. And I've included here snippets of our conversations from that day where I'm interviewing these employers about their experience. And I hope you enjoy it and gain some valuable takeaways from their learning. So I'm going to play the first clip. Next question is, what are some benefits your organization has experienced from hiring refugee job seekers? Next question is, has experienced from hiring refugee job seekers?
I can speak to that. We find from a coworker perspective at IKEA, we've seen that a diverse workforce really leads to creation of an inclusive culture. We've had people tell us that they feel that they can be themselves, they have a sense of belonging, and they really feel like they're part of a diverse team. And then from a business perspective, when our customers see themselves in our coworkers, this improves our brand. And it creates a loyal, high retentive customer base who will hopefully continue to choose IKEA as their preferred shopping destination. And, we want to walk the talk in our commitment, and IKEA wants to be known globally as, change makers and world leaders as far as ED&I is concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Anne just said there in terms of the fact that it's really helped diversify our culture in general. And I think as we broaden and as we continue to diversify the talent that works at McCain, again, the benefit of us being global is our products are pretty well known right across the world. So we have people coming from other countries that are already familiar with the brand. And then as we continue to hire more people from around the world, those individuals start to feel more comfortable referring people, and it continues to grow. So our overall employer brand improves. So I think there's a number of benefits, some expected, some unexpected, that we've experienced since we started hiring more refugees.
I think it helps also in terms of culture in the company. We've been hiring refugees a long time ago. We got people from Syria, we got people from Afghanistan. We haven't got people from Ukraine yet, but I'm pretty sure we probably have some. But it's always important because sometimes the management, they think, oh, they're coming from Syria, and then people get worried about it, right? Because I don't know, the images you see on TV and stuff like that, and sometimes you get some questions about it. But once you get the people there working, and you see, it's good. They've been getting better, getting to higher positions, getting their English, or even in best cases, once their English is good, and they study something else and they go somewhere else, and they start to fulfill really their dream to be in Canada, right? As many of us did some years ago. So I think that is, mostly one of the benefits, just the happiness to see people getting into a better life.
Well said, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so just some key takeaways from that little snippet, benefits of an organization from not just hiring refugees, but this could be applicable to, all job seekers who have international professional experience is, obviously, a diverse workforce, expanding, allowing your organization to expand into the global market, creating a better workplace culture, really increasing the level of sense of belonging for each employee and each individual working at the organization. There are two other snippets, but because we ran out of time, feel free to watch the entire recording if you'd like, when I include the link in the post-event form. But I would like to launch the last poll for today. And the question to kind of leave our discussion today with is, what is one tangible discussion, or sorry, one tangible action that you would like to start implementing? Would it be, rethinking job descriptions, including or revising an equity statement into your job description, pipelining for diversity, two in the pool methodology, structured interview, or all of the above?
Okay.
So,
Go ahead and launch that poll now. Okay, and folks should be able to see it soon. And I see some answers coming in or some responses coming in, and will be open, or it'll be open for 30 seconds. Okay, jokes. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I will share the results now.
Thanks, Timbeat. So yeah, it looks like the majority of folks here would like to implement all of the above. So that's really great to hear. I like how, there's some people here who would like to rethink or reframe, rework their job description, as well as pipelining for or explore ways to pipeline for diversity, as well as incorporate structured interviewing in their hiring process. So thank you, folks, for answering. And that takes us to the end of our session. And Sonia, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So thank you again to everyone who took the time out to be a part of today's session. I want to leave us with a note as it relates to humanity. We can't take HR, we can't take the human out of HR. I think we can all agree on that. HR has a unique position in the company to keep humans on the corporate agenda as a vital growth, performance, and competitive advantage engine. Human performance, productivity, drive financial performance. Without a continuous focus on people, the probability of growth or high performance will diminish, or it will die. So that's one thing for us to always consider. Humanity is important, and this is why we emphasize so much the importance of diversity, inclusion, belonging, as well as equity. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. And I would just like to give a special thank you to Timbeat, as well as the Toronto South Local Immigration Partnership for bringing us together. TSLIP is a strategic community initiative focused on promoting welcoming communities and improving the social and economic outcomes of newcomers through enhanced service delivery, collaboration, and the development of partnerships. And without them, we wouldn't be gathered here today. So thank you so much for connecting all of us together.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation, and thank you everyone for being here, and hopefully we'll see you at the next workshop as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.